Welcome back to On Texas Football's Tuesday Night Longhorn Livestream presented by Andy Ludicky. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined by CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. We got a lot to get to tonight with the college football playoff rankings coming out. So before we get to that, I'm going to tell you about our friends over at myperfectfranchise.net. Are you looking to diversify or new ways to make money? Andy Ludicky at myperfectfranchise.net can help you do just that by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and financial goals. Call him or email him to learn more. He's got a really cool process that identifies a perfect fit for you. Email him now at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Now, guys, before we get to those playoff rankings that should be released here shortly, we got some big news on the Texas recruiting front. The number one player in Colorado, Torrey Davis, flipping his commitment to Texas. Pretty exciting stuff. Choosing Texas over Washington and Wisconsin. What do you guys think about this commitment?
Yeah, big addition to the staff. Again, they've been very busy over the last week and a half. This is their fourth commitment that they flipped, I guess fifth. Charlie Gillick, Jet Walker, both from Minnesota. You got Caden Scherer from Stanford, Rocky Cummings coming in from Cal. Now Torrey Davis coming in from UCLA by way of Boulder, Colorado, Fairview High School. You see him at safety. You see him at cornerback. Texas right now just saying, hey, get in the boat and we'll figure it out a little bit later on. That's a lot of what we've seen with Texas at the safety, defensive back room this year, right? Yaheem Riley has some versatility from safety to nickel. Obviously, Hayward Howard has played a lot of safety this year as well. But Davis, a really talented, long, lengthy, and boy, can he put his foot in the ground, Jeff, and get vertical to go make a play on the football. I think that's what this staff likes a lot about his ability. He plays the football very well. He gets his hand in passing lanes. Another addition to the Texas secondary in the 2026 class.
There's two things with the secondary class that I really like when you include, Hayward Howard Jr., Smoke Matthews, and Miami Riley. Two things you really can't coach. You can't coach physicality. Like either you're willing to strike somebody or you're not. You can become more physical, but you either got that in you or you don't. And he does, and this class does. And then you mentioned it, CJ, with Torrey Davis. Man, you got to be able to make plays on the ball. Like we talked about that when the secondary was struggling, they just weren't making enough plays on the ball, not even getting themselves in a position to make plays on the ball. And that's at safety, that was at corner, and it was kind of all over the place. I think it's pretty evident when you start looking at your leaders in pass breakups this year, and it's Cade Phillips and Grayson Littleton. So that gives me hope that as this staff continues to evolve, they're bringing in guys that can make a play on the ball. But yeah, that was really disappointing. But man, I really like it's an understated secondary class. Probably not going to grab as many headlines as other secondary classes Texas has had or some of the other positions in the class. I think you got some really, really good ball players in this class, though.
Yeah, heck of an athlete. And I know that we're talking about him in the sense of being a safety, corner, defensive back in general. But look, Torrey Davis led the state in receiving yards, 39 touchdowns, 1,500 receiving yards. When they needed to play offensively, they went to them. And that's something I don't think has been talked about enough. I think that's obviously, you talk about playmaking ability. Jermaine Bishop falls into that category, whether or not he becomes a wide receiver, cornerback at the next level. You could probably flip a coin and end up with an all-conference player there. Texas, very late in this cycle, going out and finding them a very talented – I mean, that's a tremendous play right there, over the shoulder, almost a Willie Mays level interception. So I've been very pleased with how Texas has wrapped up this cycle, finding gems from other classes across the country, and now ready to get these guys inked, signed, and boy, are we going to have a busy day tomorrow.
Miami Riley's a little bit like that too, CJ, a guy that Anderson would flip him over and play him on offense when they needed something. So again, it's and Smoke Matthews, I've said this the whole cycle, has been one of my favorite recruits in the class. So I really like the secondary class. Man, if I'm Sark, I'm telling PK, like, you can have Jermaine Bishop over my dead body. Like, that dude's going to catch touchdowns for me instead of preventing him. But that's just me.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we got the first 5 college football playoff rankings coming out, the bottom 5. The rest of them should come out here shortly. Quickly, do you guys have any predictions of where you think Texas is going to land in these rankings?
Go ahead, Jeff.
My gut tells me 14, even though I'd have Texas ahead of Vanderbilt and possibly Miami, but I think Texas will be 14.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, I know that we've been monitoring a little bit of the late odds movement here. Texas, I believe, plus 590 now. That just going off of my own notes here. Noon they were plus 2,000. 4 p.m. they were plus 1,300. 4:45 they were plus 590. They even got as low as plus 420. Does that mean anything? We'll see. But it's not necessarily nothing, and that's something that we'll be monitoring tonight.
Yeah, we got USC at 16, Virginia at 17, Arizona at 18, Michigan at 19, and Tulane at 20 so far. And that's what they've released to this point.
I just the fact that we're sitting here, and this is what's wrong with the playoff for me, the fact that Texas, Miami, Vanderbilt, and possibly Notre Dame or Alabama, somebody could get left out, and you could have 2 G5s and 2 Big 12 teams in the playoff. Like that's asinine to me, because at that point you're not putting the best teams in the playoff.
Yeah. We got Utah at 15, Vanderbilt at 14.
Okay, so Texas jumps
Vanderbilt. This is a little nerve-wracking.
Texas jumps Vanderbilt. That's a good sign. Now, does Miami pop up next?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how much they'll deviate from the APN coaches poll. And it's not a fake plant. It is a real plant. My boyfriend doesn't do fake plants, unfortunately, because my cats like to eat these. So
I'm a little bit behind y'all.
I am as well. I'll keep it
Texas
a little quiet
13.
for you.
We got Texas in at 13.
Okay.
So interesting. What do y'all think about that?
That makes sense. Look, it's going to be tough for Miami or Texas to make the college football playoff. They don't have the luxury of going out and competing for their conference championship. They're on the outside, but you needed to jump one of the two to have a chance. Now it's up again to the committee next week. I wrote down earlier today what needed to happen. Texas, number one, needed to jump Vanderbilt. They did. Number two, they needed to jump Miami. They did not. That's a big wall to climb still. However, you need Georgia to beat Alabama. You need Texas Tech to beat BYU. That's your only chance there. But Miami's sticking firm at 12. It's pretty tough.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think there's odds for if Texas ends up, or if Alabama ends up losing to Georgia? If those two things happen, do you think it feasibly could happen to where Texas jumps? I still think it's a bit of a stretch.
I thought about that today, Amanda. I've been thinking about that a lot.
And then Ole Miss, I'm also curious about. Don't mean to cut you.
Yeah, I don't think the committee. I don't think you can punish. If just me, I'm not going to punish the players because their head coach was a selfish a-hole and drugged this out a lot. Like, I got my thoughts on the Lane Kiffin thing, but that's for another day. But with Alabama, even with a loss, even if it's a convincing loss, I think you can put Texas and Alabama's resumes head to head and make a really good argument Texas should be in. I just can't see the committee leaving Alabama out 2 years in a row when they're on the bubble. That's in my head. That's how I think it'll play out, even though I'm not saying that's right, but I just can't see them leaving Alabama out 2 years in a row.
And then I see a lot of issues with the Notre Dame argument as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, who has Notre Dame beaten? Honestly, we take an honest look. SC's their best win, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good SC team. That's not a great SC team.
Strength of schedule is 42.
Why is Notre Dame just automatically in it? Because they lost a close game at Miami? Because they lost a close game at home against Texas A&M? They're down 1, which, okay, I'm cool with that. They're in at 10. But, Notre Dame to me should be closer to Miami, Texas, and Vanderbilt than they should be to Alabama and Oklahoma. And it seems like the committee views it the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bama in at 9. So, that is a pretty precarious position. It would be interesting to see if the committee decides to leave out a team that is playing in the SEC championship game just because it is the third loss on their record.
No, they won't take out Alabama. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't take out a team that's the second best and been rewarded as the second best in your conference, and regardless of what happens in the conference championship game. That I think that's ridiculous to bump a team out of the playoff in the current 12 or 16 team format because they lose an additional game that teams 3, 4, 5, and 6 did not get to play in as well. But look, the conversation for Notre Dame, it's just as simply as they've taken care of business better than teams above them have, right? Miami, Texas in that conversation. That's why they're ranked ahead at the moment. Is that fair? Is that foul? Probably not, considering that they don't get to play the same level of competition, but they didn't need overtime to take care of these nobodies, right? And that's where I've sided the entire time. Ole Miss sticking at 6, A&M 7, OU 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10. And again, that's where I don't agree with how all of this has gone on. You know, there's so much disparity in how all of these schedules are playing out at the moment, you know, and why should you ever schedule a game like Ohio State ever again? You're about to move to a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC. Why would you ever do this? And I know that folks are saying, well, you're Texas. You should go out there and beat the best. For what reason? For what reason? Georgia's not doing this. Alabama's, look, they lost to their big non-conference schedule. It just doesn't make sense that other teams who are perceived to be in the same category as a Texas are not doing it, and they're not being punished for not doing it. Texas, on the other hand, obviously are. And that's just why you should never do it. There's no reason, there's no benefit. If you win the game, it makes no different than not playing the game. The only way that this hurts you is to play the game and lose the game. And as we're seeing right now, Texas on the outside looking into the college football playoff because they decided, hey, we want to go up to Columbus, test ourselves with the defending national champions and play that game. So right now, there's no reason to play it. And as we're looking at it right now, the first team out of the playoff, BYU, second team out of the playoff, Miami, third team, that would be Texas.
This is we talked about this though weeks and weeks and weeks ago. This is exactly what was going to happen if Texas got to 9-3 and was on the outside looking in. That all these teams there's no reason to play the games now. I go back to 2023, and at that point, and this is why these games have been scheduled. They were scheduled before Texas knew it was going to the SEC. So you play those games to say, hey, with a Big 12 schedule, we're going to need that extra data point to play a Michigan and Ohio State and Notre Dame, to play them out of conference. We're going to need that data point because we can't count on our conference schedule being strong enough, because go back to the first year of the playoff, the committee showed you we don't respect the Big 12 schedule enough as it is. So you needed that game. You don't need that game now. The problem is now with the SEC scheduling requirements, you've got to play a Power 4 team. Okay, what Power 4 team is going to want to play you? You're going to have to do like a home and home, a home neutral, 2-for-1, something with like, I don't know, fill in the blank ACC, Big 10, Big 12 team. Like you can play TCU, right? And do a home and home with TCU, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, to your point, CJ, like the further removed you get from it, the Ohio State game changes the whole complexion of thing, not just because Texas lost. If Texas plays a run-of-the-mill power conference team that like middle of the road, fill in the blank with whoever it is, how much further along is Arch without having to go against that Ohio State defense? How much further along is your offense? You know, how much further along are you in developing guys? Now, I know there's no telling like how much that Ohio State game set this team back and got that. Like, we don't know the answer to that, but that's the risk you run when you play that game, especially to open the season. So I'm with you. I would love to see those games. I like those games, but what we're seeing unfold now and the rhetoric we're seeing come out now is exactly what I was worried was going to happen if Texas is in the situation it's in right now.
Do you see Sark feasibly canceling Ohio State next year, or do you see it just being reevaluated for future schedules? Because I don't know. I just think it's a bit of a stretch that they would cancel Ohio State in 2026, but those 2027, 2028s, I would think are much more at risk.
That's a CDC call, and I guess it would depend, CJ, how much money are you going to be out? What's it going to cost you to get out of those games? And honestly, the Ohio State game next year, I think it's too late to do anything about that. Like, your 26 schedule is set, but the Michigan series and you know, finishing up Michigan in 27, and then especially Notre Dame in 28, 29. Like, yeah, if I'm CDC, I'm on the phone right now.
Yeah,
trying to figure out what I can do.
Alabama made a similar move today. They said, hey, USF, we'll see you in 2032. And look, I know USF isn't a power team, but they still have Florida State scheduled for next season. And so, look, say what you want about FSU and how they've kind of been playing or where their program's headed, but the point is they're easing up their non-conference because they know, hey, I've got to play 9 teams in the SEC this upcoming year. Why would I subject myself to what Florida had to go through with USF, what Miami was kind of battling through with USF this year? USF was a top 20 program this year. Obviously, their coach got hired as a result. So the more that you can avoid the risks, because there's no reason to be playing these out-of-conference risky games by any means necessary at the moment, it makes sense. And that's kind of what we're seeing currently. Teams are starting to shift around their schedule. And I don't know, to your point, Jeff, if this is one of those instances where you're able to get out. But look, because you see both sides, right? Texas winning in Tuscaloosa in 2023, that's part of the reason why they got in to the college football playoff. That was a big notch under their belt in comparison to a number 1 overall Georgia who loses the conference championship, bumps all the way down to 5, and now Texas has to battle out through Washington and Alabama and FSU at the time. Hey, that win over Alabama was a big reason why they got in. But as you keep going on, and as we're seeing this year, the wins and the losses are what matter. And the more that you're seeing it right now with Texas being behind a BYU and a Miami, despite having 3 top 10 wins, the most of any team in the country since 2019 LSU, they're just showing straight up they don't care because you have 3 losses. And one of them came to the number 1 team in the country, and another came to the number 3 team in the country. They just don't care, and you shouldn't subject yourself to the opportunity to fall one more game in which, hey, if you're not obligated to play them, why schedule them?
The other thing, well, there's 2 things here. It's being pointed out in the chat, and it's a valid point. The Ohio State game next year and the Michigan game in 2027, they're both home games. So if you cancel those games, what's that do to your revenue for a home football weekend? What does it do to the economy in the city of Austin? Like, there are a lot of ramifications for canceling that game. The other thing is, I don't here's my issue with the committee. And I'll read the quote. I mean, because I found this was back in 2023, right around the whole Florida State discussion.
Yeah.
This was Bill Hancock, who's no longer the executive director of the CFP committee, but this is what he said in regards to Florida State and the Jordan Travis injury. He said, "It's best, most deserving is not anything in the committee's lexicon. They are to rank the best teams in order, and that's what they do. Just keep that word in mind, best teams." No, you're not. Because if you're telling me a team like Texas that's going to play a tougher schedule than BYU or Miami, if you're going to disqualify them because they have a 3rd loss, just like Alabama last year with the SMU debate, don't tell me it's the best team, because it's not. You could not last year look at Alabama's resume against SMU and tell me SMU is a better football team. It's asinine, because it's not true. You cannot look at Texas and tell me that Miami and BYU and Notre Dame are unequivocally better teams than Texas because, Texas is a 3rd loss, so you're eliminated. Then stop telling me that's the requirement. Stop telling me that's the criteria, because you're not putting the best teams in at that point. And especially, again, if I'm Miami, Texas, and hey, if Notre Dame ends up getting left out and there are 2 G5 teams and 2 Big 12 teams in this thing, if you're Texas and Vanderbilt, Miami, and you played a tougher schedule, if I'm Greg Sankey, I'm pulling the plug, and I'm not even requiring one of my non-conference games to be against a Power 4 school, because then why does it matter?
What would you tell to somebody who's leaning into Texas lost to Florida. Texas lost to a bad Florida team. They went on the ropes with a terrible Kentucky and Mississippi State team on the road. What would your response be to those kinds of criticisms of people thinking that Texas does not deserve a shot in the college football playoff?
I'll say, hey, look, you won those games. You SEC caliber team. You won those games that you needed to win. Now, the Florida game is interesting because for the most part, every team above you or every team in the country has lost a game they probably would have liked to have had back, right? But also one of the big criteria that we hear year in and year out is, did you have your head coach? Did you have your key players? And if not, what did that lend to the outcome of the game? I would argue not having an all-conference cornerback, Malik Muhammad, going up against Dallas Wilson played a pretty big role in that game for Texas and Gainesville. Now, is that enough to completely disqualify the loss? Of course not. However, it's in the criteria, as we mentioned. And that's another thing is you start looking around at which of these schools will have coaches. Well, we heard today that BYU's head coach, Kalani Sitake, said, hey, I'm not going to Penn State. So they're in the clear. As for Ole Miss, hey, are they going to have an offensive staff? Will they have a play caller? What's that going to look like for them? We've seen already Florida State didn't have a quarterback, and they said, hey, to hell with you. So that's starting to make me wonder, how are they weighing this? Obviously not a lot right now with Ole Miss still sitting at number 6. But Texas, again, sitting on the outside. It's really interesting. And I don't know. I'm pretty interested to see what type of avenues there are for Texas to move upward now that we've seen them come in at number 13.
I do think it's interesting with the whole of just evaluating it outside the wins and losses. If you go back and watch that Florida game and then go back and watch the A&M game from this weekend, those look like two completely different teams. There's a lot that changed from those two games. So are we really evaluating the progression of a team throughout and what the team has become versus what they were in that specific game? And then also there's the fact that Florida, yes, they're not a good team. They lost Dallas Wilson a couple weeks later as well. So that certainly didn't help the rest of their strength of schedule.
If you want to, and this is the thing, this is what the argument that I try to I'll make on our roundtable over the weekend. I don't think I did a very good job of it. But let's say the cutoff is at Texas A&M, because if you're a one-loss team, your only loss is to Texas in a rivalry game and it's a top 15 team. Okay, I'll cut the cutoff to me is at Oklahoma and Texas A&M. You start looking at Oklahoma's resume. They had I think it was a one-score win over Auburn until late when they got a safety. Like, they didn't play well against Auburn. They didn't play well against the 7-5 LSU team. Alabama had to go to the wire to beat a bad South Carolina team. Tell me a quality team Notre Dame has played other than their 2 losses outside of USC and maybe Pitt. So again, you can go down. Everybody's got those blemishes on their resume. So it's all about, hey, whose pimples are biggest or most outstanding or whatever. So yeah, if you want to use the Kentucky and Mississippi State argument against Texas, okay, great. Then I'll use the South Carolina argument against Alabama or the Auburn argument against Alabama. Like, you can do this. You can go tit for tat with all those teams 8-14 between really. I think Vanderbilt's out of it at this point. So really from 13 to 8, you can start comparing blemishes, and they've all got stuff that if you want to really get nitpicky about Alabama and Texas, Texas lost to Florida. Well, okay, if you want to play that game, Florida just beat Florida State, who pummeled Alabama to open the season. So to your point, Amanda, are we not talking about, or can we not agree that Alabama's a much better football team right now than they were at the beginning of the season? So it's just, there's no rhyme or reason. You can do that for Texas, then go ahead and do that for those other multi-loss teams.
They're showing Miami's current resume, the strength of schedule of 44th. They've played 1 team currently in the top 25. Texas played 5 in the top 10. So, look, they won that game. That is against Notre Dame. They're 2 spots behind at the moment, but that's part of the argument is there's no way that the schedules amount to one another. With what Texas has played this year, with what Miami's played this year, Texas 3 wins over top 10 teams. Miami's played 1 team over a top 25 team. So, look, that's, again, the argument, and that's why I go back to what you need to do to make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation where you're playing unnecessary teams that could lend you a tougher game than you need to play outside of your conference.
Yep. I do think this super chat from Guy Q4E is interesting. How is OU so far ahead of Texas? I don't know if it's how is OU so far ahead of Texas. I'm intrigued as to why OU is above Alabama, why OU is above Alabama because of the head-to-head. Yeah. But if you've watched OU, if you watched that LSU game, that OU offense in the playoffs is going to be interesting. But yes, the OU so far above Texas, I think just for every other reason that we've talked about here is 2 losses versus 3 losses.
That's all the committee looks at.
They're not looking at the head-to-head in this situation.
No, and again, the context of your wins and your losses needs to come into play. As we're looking at it right now, Oklahoma won on Saturday, but boy, did they look bad. And I don't know if there's an Oklahoma fan that will tell you with a straight – there are Oklahoma fans that will tell you with a straight face that they will compete in round one of the college football playoff. But they know deep down that offense stands no chance. That team is not very good right now. That team cannot move the football. That quarterback, not very good. And look, I'll be the first to tell you that because I told you all year beforehand that I thought he was pretty good. But Matthew, thank you for this comment. Idle teams can move in accordance with results in championship weekend. Right now, Notre Dame, Miami, Texas, all will be idle this weekend. BYU will play Texas Tech. Texas needs Texas Tech. How odd is that to win the Big 12, to boot BYU? And then, of course, a Georgia-Alabama game. I don't really think it will play as much of an impact there. But altogether, it feels bleak from this side of things, Jeff. Let me know what you think.
This is just me as a college football fan. And I knew this stuff was going to happen. I saw a tweet from a national writer today that said, "Oh, when this Texas doesn't like the system, let's just blow it up and get something better." Like, can you honestly with a straight face as a college football fan say, you know what? I can't wait for North Texas to go to Eugene to play Oregon in the first round. Nobody wants to see that. Now ask me, hey, do you want to see Texas go to Eugene? Yeah, I'd really like to see that. Or how about Miami goes to Ole Miss for a first round game instead of fill in the blank lowest ranked conference champion? Like, we're supposed to have the best teams in this thing, and that's not it. You cannot tell. Like, yeah, we in the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, we all love the Cinderella story. Like, it's great to see a 16 upset of one or a 15 upset of two, right? But when it gets down to the Final Four, what do we want to see? We want to see Duke. We want to see Kentucky. We want to see North Carolina. When it comes down to your championship tournament, when it comes down to the end, you want to see the best of the best play. Sorry, I don't want to see North Texas in the playoff. I don't want to see James Madison in the playoff. I don't care if there are multiple ACC or Big 12 teams in the playoff. If we know by far that the SEC and the Big 10 are the two best conferences, they got the most NFL talent, they got the best teams, those are the teams I want to see in the tournament. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, would you be able to tell us about our friends at Duck Camp real quick? Then we'll get to some of you guys' questions. You sure do have a lot of them.
Yeah, Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's at a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right here in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics, Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook 'em. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com and on Texas Football Fam. Use the promo code ONTexas25. That's ONTexas25 for 25% off of your order at duckcamp.com. And now, with the help of a couple of lifetime Longhorns, let's hear it from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, y'all make sure to get your questions in. Super Chats, jump to the top of our list. And we got one here from KD35, I'm the best. I do think this is pretty funny. The CFP clearly don't care about money and TV ratings. So whenever rival fan bases say Texas catches breaks for TV ratings and money, if Texas does not make the college football playoff, I think you can point back to this as an instance where that was not the case.
Yeah, probably so, because as we've seen this year, Texas brings more numbers than anybody else. So I would agree.
We got another super chat from MRJ62. If Texas is the first team out, then they need to take drastic steps, cancel OSU and Michigan. We talked about this. I don't think this is going to happen, or at least the OSU, Michigan maybe, but OSU I don't think would happen.
I think it's too late to cancel Ohio State. And I mean, honestly, the Michigan is the last game of a home and home. So, go ahead and keep it, I guess. But like, if you're going if you look at the longevity of this thing, right, you play it out for an SEC team. If you're going to play 9 conference games and then potentially a conference championship game, and then depending on that, have to win either 3 or 4 playoff games to win a national championship, to CJ's point earlier, why am I going to play in Ohio State or a Michigan or a Notre Dame in non-conference and beat my team up for one more week where maybe if you don't play that game, maybe you're a little bit healthier and a little more right frame of mind when you do play a Florida or a lower tier SEC team. This is going to be one of those this is exactly what I didn't want to have happen, because I like those early season conference games, but there is with the playoff format the way it is, and with the automatic qualifier spots dished out the way they are, there is zero incentive for a Power 4 team to play one of those marquee non-conference games.
Yeah, and someone pointed it out earlier. When Texas gets Michigan back at DKR after that home and home in 2023, was it last year? That's gonna be Bryce Young's junior year. You're probably gonna be on year 1 of whichever quarterback that is, of KJ Lacey or Dia Bell. Oh, by the way, if that's the case, get ready for 9 more SEC games. So, why would you subject yourself to I know that they've been scheduled before. I understand. But moving forward, why would you ever do it again? If this is what the committee is going to tell you is, hey, you have another loss, even with all of your big wins over number 14, 7, and 8. Why would you subject yourself ever again to a game like that?
And I think it's worth noting. Sorry, man. I think it's worth noting because I see Rat React says wants Sark to cancel these games and stop playing them. These games were scheduled long before Steve Sarkisian was named the head coach at Texas. They scheduled these games out years in advance, and at the time they were scheduled, they were conceived, and the contract were worked out, Texas was still in the Big 12. And you figured, hey, we can't count on our conference schedule because, again, go back to the very first year of the playoff in 2014 with the Baylor TCU fiasco. The committee clearly showed you, hey, Big 12, we don't respect your conference schedule. Like, you need an extra data point. That's the whole reason the Big 12 has a conference championship game right now, by the way, is they needed that extra data point. So you had to add that game. You don't need that game anymore. Then to back up CJ's point, like, you can say, well, is that a cowardly way out? Yeah, maybe, but it's stupid. It serves you no purpose. Why are you going to put your players through a hellacious game when you do not have to?
Yeah. And I don't know if y'all have looked at the Texas schedule for 2026, 2027 for the next couple of years. 2026 is a little bit lighter than 2027, but you're still at LSU, you're at Missouri, you're at Texas A&M, you have the OU game, you're at Tennessee, which even if they're not great, that's quite an environment. Now, looking forward to 2027, you're at Alabama and you host Georgia again. So the schedules are just going to get more and more difficult with moving to 9 games. Then also in 2027, you're at South Carolina and you're at Vanderbilt. And that's a ringer of an away schedule. So it will just get more and more difficult moving forward. So I will be interested to see what they do with these non-conference games.
Yeah, Oklahoma been work smarter, Texas, not harder. Exactly. Like unless the playoff format changes, I don't see any incentive to keep those games.
Yeah, I mean, even then, with the other SEC schools that schedule these kinds of games, I believe A&M has Arizona State next year, so that's not quite a Notre Dame again. So it's just interesting to see how they would shift that to who they would change with. We have a super chat here from Where You Been 6303. They nitpick our wins, but OU, it took questionable calls to beat Auburn and close games with LSU and Missouri. Lack of consistency. I mean, I think that's pretty fair. There is a lack of consistency when it comes to, and I mean, you can look at that with A&M too. Not that A&M is on the cusp at all, but every single team in the SEC seems to have one of these games that was just a little bit too close for comfort. And that's just the nature of the SEC.
Look, we've heard it from coach after coach after coach. Anybody in this conference can beat anybody, and we saw that this year. Yeah, and that, again, it goes back to the point. If you're going to play such a gauntlet and adding another SEC team, why add a team that could be in the SEC to play 10 of those? There's no reason for it.
Yep. Delicious 98, need more noise on Ole Miss getting the FSU treatment. I mean, it was announced that they're getting their OC back to coach the game. So that makes it a little bit different, but I'm not sure if that was announced before or after the committee came up with their ranking today. And I don't know how significant that is compared to losing to the situation that FSU was in.
Yeah, probably not comparable given that it's 4 teams then versus 12 now. Only 1 loss versus teams with 2 and 3 trying to fight in. But I'm with you. You know, why am I to think that Ole Miss will be any part of a competent program in the playoffs given that their head coach, their play caller, gone? So I'm with you. It should be considered. Probably won't be, but that's where we're at.
Got another super chat here from Michael Williams. I didn't think they would make it to 10 to 12. Committee chair logic is bonkers. ND still ahead of Miami due to nice win against Stanford. OU still above Bama because they had a nice tough win against LSU. OU is above Bama because of the head-to-head. I don't think it's because of, but I mean, OU did not look like the team that played Alabama against LSU, but I think they're above them from the head.
Then and Texas is ahead of Vanderbilt. Then by that logic, how is Miami not ahead of Notre Dame? Yeah. If we're valuing head to head,
I mean, I'm not sure what logic is being used. I mean, it seems like the head to head's valued some places. I don't think strength of schedule's really been taken into account much at all. But it's confusing considering they release all of these metrics and it doesn't seem like they're really applying many of them, or they're applying them very inconsistently.
There's a world we can live in, you know, at this time next week where BYU, James Madison, and North Texas are in the playoff, and Miami, Texas, and maybe Notre Dame are playing in who gives a rat's ass bowl games. I mean, sorry, I don't care that much about the Citrus Bowl, even though that's probably where Texas is headed at this point. But like, that's nobody wants to see that. And if you are, you're either disingenuous, you're a liar, or you just hate the SEC. Like, I don't want to see G5 teams in the playoff.
I mean, I do think a lot of people do hate the SEC, so that probably is
that checks out. Sure,
lending to some of it as well. I think that's very valid. Got a lot of super chats in line with this. Cancel Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Michigan. Schedule James Madison and North Texas and beat them by 70. I mean, it's what we're to say. It might be the way to go, or might be. Alabama's already taken those steps, and I'm sure it's just the first domino.
Yeah, you're probably right. I bet you're starting to see more and more of these teams who, you know, expect to be on the fringe, right? Texas obviously expects to be in, but why would you subject yourself, as we've been talking about, to another game like this early in the season where you've not figured out who you're going to be, or if you're a young team, you don't quite know how that might progress moving forward. There's just not a reason to play the games, given that it doesn't matter who you beat, right? Texas, 3 – again, I'll go back to the same stat. 3 top 10 wins. 3 teams right now in the top 15 of the college football playoff at the end of the season, not rewarded for it because, hey, they went up and they played the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. I do like this super chat from Joshy Manning. The 2 biggest issues, early losses, Notre Dame hurt less than later losses. Teams losing A&M are harmed more than winning teams are rewarded. I think that last part, teams losing are harmed more than winning teams are rewarded, does carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, I see the argument all the time about, you know, it matters when you lose, and I think it absolutely does. Mm-hmm. You know, again, and look, I'm not here to tell you A&M's a good team. I don't think that's the case. But I obviously, why am I to think that Ole Miss is in a better spot right now than Texas A&M moving forward? Because, well, again, they don't have a coach. Their play caller, the guy that orchestrated their entire roster, gone. I'm to believe that they're going to sustain that same level of success in the playoff? No shot. So that's part of losing late, and that's part of, again, the overcorrection that I think the committee takes at times. So it's all a bit of a mumbled mess at the moment.
I wish I could go back, you know, I think this was right after Texas beat Vanderbilt, whenever the first rankings came out. And I can remember Booger McFarland, like, pick your talking head on ESPN, was like, oh yeah, if Texas beats Georgia or A&M, they're in at 9-3 for sure. And now we're going to act like that never got said, that never happened. Like we're just going to pretend those words didn't exist because it doesn't fit a narrative or whatever. So like, I don't know, man. I can't stand that, teams that are capable. Like, again, I'm Mean Green fans and alums. I'm sorry I keep throwing you under the bus, but you're the best example I've got. Does anybody honestly think North Texas can go on a run and win a national championship?
We had a North Texas fan in the chat that agreed with you, so you're not being that insulting.
now, can Texas? I don't know that they would, but I think Texas would make much more compelling television and more competitive games than North Texas or Tulane or James Madison or even Virginia. Like I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here. But the unintended consequence is going to be when Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, really it's the two commissioners we're talking about, when they've decided that they've had enough, we're going to go to 16 teams. There will be no AQ status, and we will get like these 16 best teams. And if an 8-4 SEC or Big Ten team sneaks in there, so be it. But that's where we're headed.
All right, we'll get to some more of your super chats right after we hear from our partner, Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some good news. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders, serving the Austin and Round Rock area and all of Texas, is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local to the Austin, Round Rock area and all of Texas, give him a call at 512-218-8571. And our friends over at Culligan's, when it comes to water your family drinks and uses every day, you don't want to cut corners. That's why for over 90 years, people have trusted Culligan. And here in Austin, Culligan Ultra Pure has been serving the community for more than 60 years. Culligan Ultra Pure provides high-quality residential water treatment at an affordable price, including reverse osmosis systems, water softeners, and UV purification lights. Whether your water comes from a well or municipal source, Culligan has a perfect treatment solution for your home. And right now, you can schedule a free water test and save up to $600 when you mention On Texas Football. Culligan Ultra Pure proudly serves Austin, Corpus Christi, Victoria, Brownwood, Pampa, and Plainview. So don't wait. Call Culligan Ultra Pure today at 512-339-2378 to schedule your free water analysis. That's 512-339-2378, and make sure to ask for Michael. Better water starts with Culligan. We've got a lot of super chats to get through here. We got Guy Q4E. I'm a diehard, unreasonably loyal Texas fan, and I'm more upset about the Notre Dame Miami situation because it shows there's no time or reason, or no, I assume, rhyme or reason to any of this. And I think I agree with that. They're both going to be left out, or not both left out, but yeah, it doesn't make much sense. And I think that's what we're trying to do, make sense of this.
I was scrolling Twitter earlier when we were going through that last ad break, and Hunter Yurachek, or I guess one of the big, committee members was giving their explanations for Notre Dame, and they said, yeah, we were pretty split on Notre Dame and Alabama at the moment. So Notre Dame's closer to a single-digit team at the moment. They said the reason for Alabama sticking ahead of Notre Dame was their tough win over Auburn on the road, right? Remind me Auburn's record and how successful they've been this year. But that shows you how highly they think of Notre Dame, and how, again, you can go out there and just kind of pick 12 teams anywhere in the country. And as long as you win those games, it doesn't matter your strength of schedule. It doesn't matter your strength of record. It doesn't matter which big marquee wins you have. As long as you don't have 3 losses, hey, you're probably going to make the college football playoff, which is crazy because I can make the argument for Vanderbilt over Notre Dame. I can make the argument for Texas over Notre Dame. And, of course, Miami, who, remind me, beat Notre Dame. So it just is so inconsistent in the explanations for where these teams are. And, Jeff, again, to your point, it's a shame that we're keeping the hopes of a North Texas, a Duke, a Virginia. I mean, if you're a top 12 team in the country, you should be in the college football playoff. These automatic qualifiers, they need to stop. And again, I don't care who the G5 team is. There's a reason why we look back at Boise State and Oklahoma and say, wow, what a fantastic, phenomenal game. It's because you'll never see something like that again. You just won't.
Yep. We got a super chat here from Allison Andrew Franco.
Gotta hit that button, Jeff.
Sorry
Gotta hit that button.
Sorry if I said that wrong. How many spots would Alabama fall if they lost to Georgia by double digits? I think the fact they moved up one, ruined our chances? If so, I don't know if they would drop enough spots for Texas to get in. That's my main thing. I don't know if they drop enough.
I
don't see
I have a hard time believing the committee will leave Alabama out 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Well, they should have been in last year, but
yeah. Create a formula to generate top 12, take these human goofballs out of the equation. I think we did that. And I think
if only there was a time in college football where we had computers just spitting out rankings and we went off those. If there was only a time, I can't remember for sure if we did that or not.
We're going to just go full circle back to you go so far right, you go left. That's what they say, right?
I love, what the playoff should be if we're gonna eliminate the big time non-conference games, right? Then the playoff needs to eliminate the AQ spots, because for TV purposes, again, whatever you're gonna miss on the front end by not having Texas and Ohio State play, you can't tell me you're not gonna more than make up for it on the back end if you got a first round game between Texas and Oregon and Eugene. People will watch that. Casuals will watch it. People that don't really have a dog in the fight with college football will watch it. Who's going to want to watch Tulane go to Eugene? I will, because I'm a sicko, but I'm in a pretty small minority. Nobody wants to see that.
I think a kid I know that went to Tulane would probably watch that game, but that's about it, I think. We got a comment here. The CFP committee is a bunch of brain dead clowns. No comment.
No, it's just stop telling me you're putting the best teams in this thing when you're not. Just stop telling me that's the criteria.
Yeah. We got a suggestion here from Michael My Business 3116. 24 teams, no buys.
Nah, you'd have to have buys.
Yeah, that would be. You
would
watch some teams get killed if there wasn't buys, I think.
You'd have to go 9 through 24, and then the remaining play the top 8. So the top 8 would get buys, but that's how.
Unless you're eliminating the conference championship games.
Yeah.
And just I don't know. You let the committee or a computer pick the conference champion if there's a tie, or what. I don't know. I don't know how you do that, or if you just go off standings and how it works. But yeah, I mean, to me, 16 is the number.
The Notre Dame Miami thing is a crime. I think we agree on that one.
I don't understand why Notre Dame is just getting this pass. Again, because by the Texas logic I used earlier, I didn't wrap up that argument very well. But a couple weeks ago, oh yeah, Texas is 9-3 in. Everybody's still hung up on and I think we knew it begrudgingly. Dude, if Notre Dame wins out, they're going to be in the playoff. When they started 0-2, we knew that, and yeah, we can all say that, but that shouldn't be the case. And again, if I'm Miami, why am I going to schedule somebody like that if it doesn't matter? Because now it doesn't matter. You beat Notre Dame head to head, and it's not going to matter. And honestly, if you go to, I know it won't happen, but dude, at some point, Notre Dame's either got to or get off the pot. They got to join a conference. You can't at this point, to be an independent, you've got go join you join the ACC, the Big Ten. I don't care. You got to be a part of a conference at this point.
Yep. So they considered head-to-head with Bama, OU, but not Miami, Notre Dame. Yeah.
Again, just goes to the inconsistencies that we've talked about.
Yep. Cancel Notre Dame series. It benefits them more than us. I think this is accurate. It does benefit them because that would be one of the strongest games on their schedule. And they obviously need strong games on their schedule. Looking at their schedule this year, their strongest games, they lost both of them. Best win, USC.
Without question.
Who else did they beat?
Pitt was
3-9 Arkansas team,
right?
Yeah. What is too late to cancel Ohio State? I think it is too late to cancel Ohio State. I don't think. Do we have, any of us know the actual rules or semantics around this? I think there's probably too many contracts in place at this point.
Well, I saw somebody mention it earlier. Well, Texas has canceled games on short notice before. True, but there's a massive difference between canceling a game against Hawaii and canceling a game against Ohio State. It's, you got to deal with the networks. Again, you got to deal with, probably it's going to hurt the city economy if you don't play that game. It's going to hurt your game day revenue if you don't play that game. Like there's a lot of ramifications other than the college football playoff if you cancel that game. I'm not saying it's right or that I agree with it, but it's got to be considered.
Super chat from Jay Texan 28. Catching up, need OSU and UGA to win big, and Tech to win will improve our metrics, and only team to play OSU within one score. I mean, this is exactly what needs to happen. But if you thought the path was narrow last weekend, you are walking on a tightrope over a canyon this weekend. I just think it's a massive stretch based on where Texas came in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, if Miami's not in, I don't see how Texas jumps Miami at this point, based on what the committee has said without saying it.
Yep. Torrid 717, the Ohio thing is overblown. Our guys went to the swamp and decided playoffs weren't important. We beat Bama at home 2 years ago, and they made the college football playoff. Nobody's denying that the swamp was a terrible game. I don't think that means that Texas decided they didn't want the playoff.
Alabama also won the SEC.
Yep.
Find me a year the SEC winner would ever not make the college football playoff, and I'll give you $100,000. Every dollar I got. Maybe not that much, but look, I mean, that's just the reason why they made the playoff, right? They won the toughest conference in all of college football. You make the playoffs as a result. Now, there was a point made up here earlier by Kane. I don't know if we can get the comment back up. And this is something that I think needs to be addressed for Texas moving forward is, hey, all of this aside, you're going to play games where you come off of bias, and you've got to be better with that, right? Texas played 3 games with extended amount of off time before the game, and they lost all 3 of those games this year. That can't be the case again this year, right? Speaking of 2026, you lost week 1 to Ohio State. You didn't score a point until the fourth quarter. You had all summer to prepare, get a game plan ready, and execute that. You did not. You had a whole week to prepare to go to the swamp and beat Florida. Guess what? You got stomped on from the start. You had a whole week to prepare for Georgia. And again, very much the same. You had 3 points in the first half. And while that game got a little bit close in the third, they just flat out stomped you in the fourth. So that's, again, my biggest point of emphasis moving forward for Texas. If you figure out the offensive line, does that alleviate a lot of the concerns coming off of a bye? Yeah, absolutely. Figure out the offensive line, figure out some of these longer weekends. And, again, I think Sark normally has been pretty good at generating a game plan for these big marquee games, coming off of byes, preparing for Oklahoma, coming off of Oklahoma. But this was a clear flaw of this 2025 Texas football team, and that's something that should be emphasized going into this offseason.
Got a super chat here from All Right Cube. The argument for a spot for G5 is best for the overall health of the sport, and I agree. Keeps another 50-plus schools engaged. I mean,
Why are we acting like the G5s and the Power 4s are on the same playing field? Why are we trying to make equitable a scenario in a situation that will never be equitable? It'll never be equal. It'll never be fair. Why are we trying to do that? That doesn't make any sense. The overall health of the sport. So you're going to tell me like North Texas getting into the playoff, going to Oregon and getting beat by 40 is better for college football? On what planet does that make any sense?
Right. Again, just adds to the frustration of where things are currently, right? Because again, we're giving away automatic qualifiers, and that was the issue a year ago. They rectified it immediately when they said that, hey, if you win your conference, you're automatically given a top 4 seed. Well, why? We've clearly seen as the years and the seasons go on, not all of these conferences are created equal. Not all of the conference winners are deserving of a top 4 team seed, right? By whatever. This year, you're very clearly saying that one of the power conferences is horrible and that their best team in the conference isn't going to win the conference. So why are we giving that team or whatever champion in the ACC an automatic spot? It should be the best teams in the country. You don't have 68 spots to fill AQs, Jeff. You have 16. You shouldn't be just giving them away.
And RW, I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean for North Texas to be catching strays. It's just – Neil Brown just took the job, and like I've got North Texas on the brain, so like I don't know. I've got UNC on the break. But you know what? I'd be saying the same thing. Like, look, Texas State's my alma mater, right? Sun Belt school. If Texas State was in James Madison's shoe, would I think it'd be cool that Texas State's going to the playoff? Yeah, as an alum, yeah. Do I think they'd belong in the playoff? Not no, but hell no. Like, on what planet is that a rational thought? Like, no. I wouldn't want to watch that game. I would for about 5 minutes until it got out of hand. Like, it's just, but again, for the committee, if you got the AQ rules and whatever, and you set the precedent last year with SMU and Alabama, stop telling me you're putting the best teams in this thing when you know you're not.
Yep. Got a super chat from Texas Blake. Aggies complaining about Texas stating facts is rich, such a rare combination of arrogance and insecurity in that bunch. I do think it's interesting because I have a good inkling that if A&M was in this exact situation, they'd be making the exact argument here.
By the way, Amanda, I saw the clip from Moving Goalposts. Like, I'm glad somebody said it. Like, Aggie fans, don't lie to yourselves.
It's a coping mechanism.
Like, it didn't matter.
Everything I've seen is just like, if it didn't matter to you, why didn't you sit Marcel Reed and rest him? If it didn't matter.
Yeah. It's just like, in 2023, Texas won the Big 12, went to the playoff. You know what? It still sucked losing to Oklahoma. It sucked being in the Cotton Bowl for that game and the way Texas lost it. Like, you just have to accept it. Like, I don't know, A&M gets one playoff berth, and like all of a sudden it's like they're one to tell you like how you should handle this, and oh yeah, you should look at wins this way or not, or yeah, control yourself. Like, dude, this is why the minority of your fan base that just has diarrhea of the brain and just will word vomit whatever on Twitter. Like, this is why nobody likes you, is for rhetoric like this. When you can try to convince yourself the Texas game doesn't matter. You know it matters. We know it matters. We know that you know that it matters. Stop lying to yourself.
Yep. I completely agree with you.
Y'all got this has got me. There's a lot of stuff that's got me riled up in this for this live tonight. So
yeah, I don't blame you. They're gonna leave us out, and then they'll probably rank us number 1 to start next season. I doubt that. I don't think in number 1. I do think it'll be up there. I'd say more in the 5 to 10 range.
Ohio State's got Julian Sand and Jeremiah Smith coming back, so I can probably already tell you who's going to be your preseason number 1.
Yeah. It's funny. And I had this conversation earlier, and I still believe this because I tweeted it in the middle of the year. We're going to go through all of this hoopla of who the 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th, 15th best teams are, and it won't matter. Ohio State will get to the playoffs. They'll flip a switch, and they'll beat the hell out of everybody just like they did a year ago. I think they're the best team by far. Now it's fun to sit here and debate which team should be in, right? To be a team that makes the playoff for a third straight year, that's great. I don't realistically see a chance Texas beats Ohio State again.
Probably not. But I'd rather watch Texas take another swing or Miami to get in there and try their hand at it than watch James Madison go to Oxford.
And I agree.
I know how that's going to happen.
I agree.
No, don't cancel the game. Should have handled UF. Will be going to 16 soon. Those games will make our teams better. We would still be in. I mean, point right now is it's not at 16 yet. I mean,
CJ, I don't know where you are, CJ, where you are, Amanda. I'm not dismissing the Florida loss. It's there. It was bad. It was bad when it happened. It's still bad. It hasn't aged well. It's actually gotten worse as the season's gone on. But if you're going to tell me that 3 losses automatically disqualifies you from this thing, and you're not even going to really look that deep, and like CJ, you've said it, and I don't know if you want to reiterate it for people that just jump on our live stream, because I didn't see what Hunter Yurachek said, or I didn't hear it. Like, if the committee's saying that Notre Dame is closer to Alabama and Oklahoma than they are to Miami and Texas, then we all know how this is going to end, right? Like, so, I can talk about it, I can express frustration, but like, I know it's probably all moot. It probably doesn't matter.
Right. And that was the biggest concern for me, was seeing how highly they held Notre Dame in regard to where they should be in this college football playoff, considering, again, the quality wins. They don't care because they have 10 of those wins, right? And that's, again, their resume for Texas and Notre Dame probably doesn't come close. I think Texas has a much better resume, much better argument for Notre Dame. But the point is, it just doesn't matter to the committee based off of how we're seeing them talk about Notre Dame being in that conversation with Alabama, with Oklahoma, with Texas A&M, than what they should be in with the Miami, the BYU back in that 11, 12, 13 spot. It's just not what we've come to think is logical considering what we've all gone through watching over the last 4 months of college football.
Part with Notre Dame, part of and to an extent A&M, but A&M's one losses to Texas, so they're a one-loss team. So I'll excuse A&M from this.
Yeah.
But like with Notre Dame, it's like, well, they've looked impressive. So this is like the Chris Rock stuff. Like, you don't get credit for stuff you're supposed to do. You've got teams like Syracuse and Stanford on your schedule. Like, yeah, you're supposed to beat those teams. Like, that's like, so you don't get extra credit for doing things that you're supposed to do. Again, Amanda mentioned earlier, she asked the question, what is Notre Dame's best win? It's a home win against a solid USC team. Is that better than any of the 3 top 10 wins that Texas has? No. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, like they're A&M, they're all better wins than any win Notre Dame has.
Yep. Got a comment here from Guy Q4E. Bringing in a G5 is like bringing in a G League team to play Golden State first round in the NBA playoffs.
It's a fair comparison.
Yeah. Like, can it happen? Yeah, it can. That doesn't mean it's going to. Or, I guess the way the playoff is constructed now, and I know I'm talking about a situation that's probably going to change in the next year or two, so it is what it is, but like, you're telling me like a G5 team getting a consolation prize by going to get your brains beat in by a Power 4 team is better than another Power 4 team that could realistically go win a national championship. That's what you'd rather have. You'd rather have the G5 team get the consolation prize. All right, cool. Just don't tell me you're putting the best teams in this thing. I know I've said that a lot. I've repeated myself, but I cannot stress that enough. Stop telling us that the criteria you're using gets the best teams in here, because you're not getting the best teams in there.
Yep. We got a comment from Jackson S776, because G5 still technically plays for the same trophy at the end of the year. If they should have a separate trophy is a valid debate.
Yeah. Look, it's going to take a lot of convincing. And again, it's tough for the overall health of the sport. I do agree with that, because look, it's a lot different than saying, hey, you're a Power 4 team and you're a Division I team when you don't have a chance to fight for the national championship. I understand that, but I agree with Jeff. Look, there's not a team that we've seen that has a legitimate chance talent-wise to go out there and win a college national championship in football. We've just not seen that. I don't know if that would ever take, or if that would ever get to the point of true, movement towards saying, hey, you're no longer eligible to compete for a national championship. But in the current landscape, they don't have a chance.
Yep. Canceling OSU is a weenie argument. We would not be having this discussion if we proved we were a better team because we won that OSU game or future Power 4 games. I mean, Texas is not the only team that's making this argument to cancel these games. And also, you can say I was kind of on this page earlier on when you say you don't want to cancel these games, you got to win the ones you're supposed to win. But at the same time, when you look at the team, when you just look at the direct comparisons, like we've talked about this entire episode, it doesn't make sense to keep that OSU game, because if you don't have that, Texas is in the playoffs.
Miami might have a better argument than Texas here, honestly, because you're going to say we beat Notre Dame head to head, and committee's telling you that doesn't matter. You went out, that's a non-conference game. You went out and scheduled it when you didn't have to, and the committee's telling you, yeah, we don't care.
Yep. Agree.
It's like they're applying the best team principle where they feel it's convenient.
Yeah. We got another G5 comment here. Why don't they have a Power 5 natty and a G5 natty? I mean, it makes sense. It's just there's a complete different level of caliber of play in these two levels.
Yeah.
Reason for that.
I would welcome that. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're going to hear from our sponsor over at Andy Ludicky before we get to a couple more of your super chats and wrap it up here. Stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general? Call Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. He will take you through a process to identify a business that will not only fit your financial goals, but also your skill set. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. All right, that's about as much as college football playoff we have for tonight. But want to go back to what we mentioned at the top of the show. Torrey, think poor man's Earl Thomas range. Texas's most recent flip commitment. Just news we got this evening. What do y'all think about that comparison?
Look, if you're comparing anybody to Earl Thomas, pretty lofty expectations there. But look, I do see the range. I do see the ability to play on the football. He has great hands. I talked about his ability, 1,500 receiving yards, 30-something touchdowns. He plays the football very well. He tracks well with the ball in the air. Heck of a football player, it looks like on tape. Now, how will that translate with physicality, tackling, getting off blocks, shedding, running the alley? We'll have to wait and see. But altogether, I think Texas got themselves a really talented football player with Torrey Davis. And look, that's 4 very versatile defensive backs in this class, maybe 5, depending on Jermaine Bishop ends up. But right now, Hayward Howard's played some safety. Yaheem Riley's played nickel and safety. Torrey Davis played corner and safety. You got some very versatile pieces, and this one has the knack for finding football. I'm a big fan of this take. Oh, here we go. I was a volunteer safety coach last season at Fairview. Torrey Davis is a center fielder here. Races angles, was absolutely dominant at Fairview. Quality dude. D Stackers, thank you very much for the super chat. But yeah, I mean, look, you don't come away with this many interceptions, this many plays on the football if you can't read angles. And I know it's kind of a lofty comparison, different positions, but I remember hearing a lot about Trayvon Diggs when he was making his name as a Cowboy. They said, look, if he wasn't playing wide receiver at Alabama's first couple of years, he wouldn't have made these plays on the football to understand how to track the football, how to understand what routes are coming up. I see some of that from the safety position. Obviously, Earl Thomas is one of the best to ever do it back deep at center field. But I do think that this is going to translate, and it's a difference from what Texas has seen on the field this year, where you didn't see a lot of plays on the football, right? So this should be something that translates immediately to the next level, is the way to read the eyes of the quarterback, find the football, and make a play on the ball.
Somebody brought his name up in the chat, but if you're looking for like a lazy comparison, I'll call it lazy just for lack of a better comparison at this point, and comparing him to another Texas safety, to me, he's more of like a Caden Stearns type than an Earl Thomas type. More of like that true center fielder, can track the ball, play over the top. Occasionally you want to spin down, cover a tight end or whatever, he can do that. But I think he's more of like a Caden Stearns type than an Earl Thomas type.
I like that.
Yep. All right. Awesome addition to this class. We just got a couple more super chats, and then we're going to head out of here. Am I correct that if Tech beats BYU is out and we are in? I don't think that'll be the case. No. Think we talked about that.
Texas right now is the 3rd team out. BYU is currently out as well because, again, automatic qualifiers. So while that would help, it wouldn't guarantee Texas a spot.
Yep. Got one from Evo 9 TV. Why not just have wildcard games like the NFL? Could be fun.
Hey, I don't hate that idea. I just don't see it ever being a possibility. If it's conference championship weekend, why not play for those extra spots? It's just hard to agree for a team that's 5th or 6th right now to say, hey, you need to go play an extra game.
Yeah.
Well, you could get seeds 8 through 16, something like that, like an NBA play-in situation. Look, I don't know. I could see that being a conversation. I have a very tough time seeing it put into action currently.
Yep, definitely. All right, guys. Good show tonight. Lots to talk about, lots to discuss. Y'all, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Texas coming in at 13 in the college football playoff. Got a big national signing day tomorrow. Lots of coverage here on Texas Football. Y'all make sure to tune in to Coffee and Football tomorrow morning. But for On Texas Football's Tuesday Night Longhorn Livestream, I'm Amanda Atwell. That's CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em. Thank you, Matthew.